What's up, guys? Welcome back. So today we're going to be installing the K&K Kustomz spike tips for our power pole blades. It's called the K&K Silver Bullet. They basically install on the bottom of your spikes, and they help with getting into the ground to keep you nice and secure. Very easy process. Let's jump right into it. Brought you in close here so you can see exactly what I'm doing. Here's a little bit better of a look at the tip itself. Very well built, and there's a key feature on Kevin's design which I'm going to show you. All I've done so far is you want to come up 1 3/8 of an inch and mark that off. Take a piece of tape and wrap it all the way around the spike, so 1 3/8 inch from the bottom. All right, and then in the kit that he sends you, it's just a little bag, obviously the spike, but you also get a little piece of sandpaper. So all we're going to do is take the sandpaper and lightly sand the area down below the tape. All right, so just kind of wrap it around, spin it a little bit. You don't have to go crazy. Just get a nice kind of scuffed up finish here. That's going to help with better adhesion for the epoxy. I'm even going to sand the bottom, like underneath here. Okay, once you have the sanding done, I'm just going to wipe off that sanding, the residue, with just a dry, clean cloth. You don't want this to be wet when you put the epoxy on, so I wouldn't use any kind of cleaner or anything like that. You could use alcohol and then let it dry, because alcohol dries really fast. I'm just going to wipe it with the dry, clean cloth, and I don't know if you can see, but it gets all that residue off there. So next thing you're going to do, his kit comes with basically everything you need to do this, other than a little bowl or something to mix the epoxy, which is right here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and he sends it. It's called the double bubble. So basically all you do is, there's a part A and a part B. You basically just fold it over, work the epoxy down. So I'm just kneading the epoxy into the bottom of the package, and we're going to then cut the top. So that cuts the top of both parts. I'm going to squeeze both parts into my bowl here. He even sends you a little stick to mix them up. So this has a working time, it says on the package, of about 5 to 8 minutes. So just squeeze both parts A and B into the bowl. And you might want to wear gloves when you're doing this. I'm not right now. If anything, just wipe it off your hands. So we're going to mix these two parts up in the bowl here, part A and B. Mix them up good. And then we're going to take the epoxy and put it down inside the spike. Now let me show you a little feature that comes on Kevin's design. See that little hole right there? What that's for is, when we go to slide this on to the spike, if that hole isn't there, which there's some products on the market that are similar to the spike, basically same idea, but they don't have that hole. And almost when you go to pop the epoxy up on there, it almost creates like it wants to push the spike back off of the blade. That hole, it's almost like a little vent if you think about it. So when you go to pop it on there, it's going to let a little bit of epoxy is going to come out of there, but also any air, so you're going to be able to get it up on there tight. When you're doing this, you want to put it on the spike with the hole facing away from the boat, and then as you're going to see, when I put it on there, we're going to turn it, and what that's going to do, it's going to do two things. It's going to kind of spread the epoxy around inside there, but it's also going to hide that hole, because when it's retracted, when the blade is retracted, it's going to be up into that slot right there. So we're just going to take this epoxy and get it all inside the spike here. Basically just kind of spooning it in there with the stick that he sends you. A little tip, you might want to use a smaller bowl, because you don't get all that much epoxy, because you don't need all that much. It's a smaller, piece here that you're working with. So I probably should have used a smaller bowl, but it's no big deal. I'm just scraping it all to the bottom so I can get that all inside the spike there before we put it on. Now that I have all that scraped in there, I'm going to take my stick and just kind of spread it around just a little bit in there. And then again, when I go to put this on, hole away from the boat. And actually, you want to take this tape off real quick before you slide the spike on. All right, so hole is away from the boat. We're going to push it all the way up, and then we're going to turn it 180 degrees. Again, that's going to allow the epoxy to kind of spread around in there, and now that little hole, the vent hole that I showed you, is now facing into that groove. Now once you have that done, if you don't have a second person to help you, I'm actually going to use the app on my phone. So all I'm going to do now is, holding this in place, I'm going to deploy the power pole so that spike is into the ground here in the driveway. You're going to leave it sit for about an hour. Quick tip, if you don't have a helper, or if you don't have your phone handy or a remote handy to lower the blade, if you do have to go to the boat to drop it down, put a little piece of tape around the spike and around the blade. That way it holds it there in place and it doesn't shift on you as you're lowering the blade into the ground here in the driveway, just to hold it there. All right, last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take I have a paper towel that's barely damp. You don't want it too wet. You want it wet enough to get off the excess epoxy, but you don't want it wet to where the water's going to drip down inside there while the epoxy is setting. But basically we're just going to wipe off any epoxy that kind of squeezed out, because you will get some, especially out of that vent hole. You will get some squeezing out of there, so just wipe it off there and make it nice and clean. Now all that's left to do is we're going to let it sit here like this for about an hour. Repeat the process on the driver's side, which we actually already did. So we're going to let the boat sit here for about an hour, let this epoxy get cured, and it does take about 24 hours to totally cure. So we're going to let it sit like this for an hour, then we'll pull the boat back in the garage. We're not going fishing today, so it was a perfect day to do this. We'll let it sit for about 24 hours in the garage before we actually go and head back to the lake. All right, I will be doing a follow-up video, so make sure you're subscribed and follow along. I'll let you guys know what I think after a few times out on the water with these. Check out Kev's product. I'm telling you, that little vent hole makes a world of difference with something like this. It gives you no resistance when you're sliding it up on there. It's a nice snug fit, but it's not going to want to push it back out on you. And, you know, it's just a great all-around product. His price point, too. Comparable things on the market are, if I remember correctly, almost double of what he charges for these things. So check them out. If you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, let me know, and we'll catch you on the next video. Take care.